I heard you got a fever, and the only prescription is more monster cutie. Alrighty. So from the feedback that I've been getting on these things is that people actually enjoy watching me stumble through this in real time. So I will continue to get this painted and do it in real time. I think at the end I still will put together a time-lapse version of it just to see how it progresses more quickly. But for now, I'll just be updating these as I go, and I'm hoping to finish this sooner than later. Probably not going to happen before the new year, but definitely soonish. So got a lot of ground to cover. Not sure how far we'll get, but we'll just soldier on. All right, so we're again working on these cuties up here. So let's turn on our selection and hide it. So Control H or Apple H. Bloom. Hide that selection. And one of the things I noticed is that there's this green color. Oop, I'll turn on the pointer. There's this green color on the outside of his arm going into this more pink orangish thing. And I kind of like that. I noticed that a lot of animals have this two-tone coloration. The outer part, the outer layers are more dark, and the inner layers towards the belly are more fleshy and light toned. So I think I'm going to try to simulate some of that. So let's grab some of that color and start painting in some of that green brown color over here. And we'll tone down all of the stuff. Put more dark tones in here. But I actually came up with a topic to discuss. Well, I guess technically it's not a discussion because it's just me talking to myself and not even the cat because she's ignoring me. But I think I was lamenting about my performance on some of these contest sites like Designed by Humans and Patched Together and stuff like that, which kind of led me to think about this new phenomenon called crowdsourcing. And crowdsourcing is basically, instead of a firm or a company approaching a single design firm or a single designer to get something done like a website or a logo, there are these crowdsourcing sites where it's essentially a contest where the company will put up a brief about what they're looking for, like, oh, we need a logo design with such and such and such and such. And instead of and what these crowdsourcing sites do is they set up this sort of like contest. So they solicit designs from the participants. So anybody who fancies themselves a designer, you submit your design to answer this brief, and the company or the agency that posted the brief gets to look through all of these entries and pick a winner. And then from there they work with that winner to further develop the item, or the winner of that contest, that's the design that they choose. And it sounds really tempting for a beginning designer or an illustrator to jump into one of these crowdsourcing deals, because you get your work in front of potential clients who are interested in seeing your stuff. And you have a good chance of getting more work if they like the one design. If you win, they like that one design, maybe they'll come to you instead of going to this crowdsourcing thing, the next time they need a designed something or an illustration or a website or whatever. And it sounds really tempting. But here's the catch. I mean, a couple hundred people, say a couple hundred people enter this contest, and they all submit work. Um, so essentially, the firm that posted the brief gets all this free stuff. Now, normally when you're working with a real client, there's a bunch of payments up front, or there should be some payments up front. Like, they're paying for your design skills, so you're getting paid when you're designing these these briefs or these sketches or these thumbnails or whatever your design process happens. You're getting paid for that work. Now with crowdsourcing, no one's getting paid, and the company that put up the brief, they reap all the benefits. So you're really shafting yourself by participating in these things. And let's say you do win. Well, you're not getting premium rate for your product. You're not getting paid, the going rate for design. You're getting a fraction of what you should be making. And for the amount of time and effort that you put into your design, hell yeah, you should be getting well paid. But these crowdsourcing sites, the rates are substandard. They're never really big professional. They're never huge rates. Um, and these guys are getting work out of you for free. It's bullshit. Whoops, I cursed again. I'm sorry. I do another podcast before I record these, and in that podcast I curse a lot. So I apologize to my Monster Cutie fans. Um, so far I've been somewhat decent at keeping it somewhat clean. Anyway, back to crowdsourcing. Working for free in the hopes of landing a gig. This is called speculative work or spec work, and there's a big movement against spec work within the design community. Now, of course, the proponents of um, crowdsourcing sites will say, well, what if you're a beginning designer? How else are you going to get your work seen? This is one of the best, easiest ways to get access to clients, because, otherwise you'd be, you wouldn't have that access. You might have a website, sure, but people aren't going to see you unless they know where to find you. And this crowdsourcing provides a central location for, firms looking for design or graphics or illustration. And I get that. I mean, I get that it's difficult for beginners to get their stuff out there. If you don't have a professional portfolio of working pieces that are done for clients, it's difficult to attract business. But my belief is that if you're going to be working for free anyway, and it's a crapshoot on whether or not you're going to win, you might as well work for yourself. That's the whole point of doing this illustration here. No one's asking me to do this. I haven't been commissioned to do this piece. Unfortunately, it's really cute, and I think it deserves something. But I'm working for free, and I'm sharing this with you. And my feeling is that if you're looking to build up portfolio pieces, if you're looking to get your work on certain to work on certain design projects, give yourself a brief. Make up an assignment for yourself. Do it for yourself. If you're going to be working for free on these spec sites and you might not win anything, work for your damn self, because you will get something out of it. Even though I'm not getting paid for this piece, I'm getting a lot out of it. I'll have, I think, a decent portfolio piece to put in my portfolio to show potential clients the kind of stuff that I'm looking to do. And I'm developing techniques. I'm learning as I go about, different ways of achieving semi-realism in my paintings and stuff like that. And so I am getting the same benefits that I would be if I was participating in those crowdsourcing contests without giving my work away for free, So I strongly caution everyone against spec work. And it's not that I'm coming from an elitist point of view. I don't make a living off of my design work or my illustration work. I'm still chained to a desk job. I go in and I still clock in and I still do all that stuff. And it's not like, I'm not one of those established designers out there in the field. When it comes time for me to pursue illustration gigs, I'm gonna have to grind it out. I'm gonna have to go door to door. I'm gonna have to make those cold calls. I'm gonna have to send out postcards to places that are looking for the type of illustration that I want to do. So it's not that I'm an elitist snob in saying that you should stay away from these design contests or these these crowdsourcing things. It's just that I feel that if you're going to be working for free, you should work for yourself. You shouldn't be beholden to anyone else. You can come up with your own specs if you want to. It could be dream specs. It could be you could pretend to be the hardest client that you've ever had to work for. I'm very picky and stuff like that. Or you can choose to go easier on yourself and take a relaxing approach to what you do. But if you're working for yourself, if you're working for free, you should work for yourself and develop your own stuff and do what you want, because that's going to show through in your work. If you do something that you truly enjoy and truly have a passion for, it can't help but show through in your work. And my love for cutie little monsters is definitely showing through in this little thing. So I encourage you to come up with your own challenges and do your own thing and stay away from the crowd. You don't want to be one voice in the crowd. You want to be the voice standing alone on the shores yelling, "Hey, check me out. I'm better than that crowd of idiots there." You don't know what you're going to get with them. The other thing with these crowdsourcing sites is there's a lot of plagiarism. Since there's virtually no quality control, there's a lot of plagiarism. There's a lot of ripped stuff. There's a lot of people out there looking to make a quick buck. So for the firms who are looking to go the cheap way, you sometimes get what you pay for, and you don't build a relationship, and you don't build something unique and that speaks to your company. Of course, why would a company be watching this? But no, I mean, if you go with the crowdsourcing route, you're not getting the best for your buck. Sure, real designers cost money, but there's a reason. It's because they have expertise that you lack. And if you build a relationship with a designer, you will get a product that responds to your needs, and it might cost you more than it would if you crowdsource the crap. But you will have a better product, and it'll help your brand stand out among the crowd. The name in and of itself should make you shy away from it. Crowdsourcing. It might work for some things, but for something like design design and illustration, I really think you need to go with somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. And it's not just because I want that job. It's because I truly think that that's the best way to solve your design problem. So yeah. Now if you're looking for work, that is a bridge I have yet to cross effectively myself. There are a bunch of sites out there. There's guru.com, which allows you to bid on projects. So it's sort of like you're thrown into a pool with other bidders, and sometimes the low bid wins the gig. So that can be a pain, but sometimes your reputation speaks for itself, and if you bid on a gig, that can always help too. So there's the job bidding way to go. Actually, that's the way a lot of government contracts work, at least here in America. The federal government has a number of places that you can bid on contracts, and sometimes it's for really complex stuff, like they need a giant overhaul of their CMS, but sometimes it's really small stuff, like some illustration work for a poster or something like that. So there are a number of job bidding sites for the federal government. There are also a number of job bidding sites for just regular people. Guru is one that I've heard of. I haven't used it myself, just cause. There's a clearinghouse of job sites out there. Um, let's see, another place you can go that I've actually found work off of is Craigslist, which is sounds kind of sketchy because it's Craigslist and you never know what you're gonna get, but you can get some work off of Craigslist. I've done some illustration work off of I gotten some illustration work off Craigslist. I've gotten paid, so that's nice. Um, where else can you go? freelanceswitch.com has a job board, and it's a different way of thinking about a job board. Typically, on a job board, the person who posts the listing, has to pay a fee. The way it works for Freelance Switch is that job seekers subscribe, and I think the last time I checked it was like $7 a month, which if you land a gig or two, instantly pays for itself. Hopefully, if you are pricing yourself correctly. So the $7 get you access to the contact information. You can search their job sites, their job board now for free. But in order to see the contact information and the payment and all that kind of stuff, you need to subscribe. And I did that for a while, for a couple of months, but I found that the listings for illustrators was few and far between. And by the time I actually got in touch with the job poster, the listing, was already moot. They had already picked somebody, which really is disheartening. There are a lot of great web postings. So if you are, if you have web design skills and you're looking to just make some money, then that's an excellent job board to check out. And $7, like I said, your first gig you'll pay for that instantly. So, yeah, Freelance Switch, great for net jobs, web design, Flash, that kind of thing. Not necessarily great for straight up illustration. So I no longer subscribe. And I bet now if I look, there's going to be like a bajillion illustration gigs. That's the way it goes. I have not had good luck when it comes to my illustration career. So yeah, the Freelance Switch job listings are interesting. Sometimes local businesses will want design work or illustration work or something. If you have a good relationship with a local business, maybe you can talk them into throwing some work your way, like, oh hey, do you need a business card designed, or oh hey, do you need a facelift for your website? Or you can actually offer to do a facelift for the website, like, oh, I see your website hasn't been updated since 2003, maybe I can jump in and help you out with that. Or let's say you have a good relationship with your local cafe and you want to help them do some illustrations for their menu because you think their menu needs an update or something like that. So if you have relationship with a local business, that's another way to approach getting work. What other things can you do? Apparently, sending out postcards is still a viable option in these internet days, because a lot of times it takes getting in front of people, and people still, apparently art buyers and art agents still use postcards, or still look to postcards and stuff. So put a really good illustration, or something that represents what you're hoping to do, and put that on a postcard, send it to a bunch of places that um, you might want to do work for, like ad agencies, um, places like that, and send a link back. Put a link, put your URL on there. Um, Definitely put your URL on there, and make sure your online portfolio is up to date with your latest and greatest stuff. That's partly why I'm doing this, because my web portfolio is horribly out of date, and I need some more stuff that reflects the nature of the work that I would like to do. So postcards. Postcards are definitely not a dead art. They say print is dead, but I've yet to see the casket. um, I've heard that cold calling works too. Just calling up an agency and saying, "Hey, do you need some work? I'm your man," and chat them up. I am horrible on the phone, as you can probably tell, because I'm pretty bad talking at myself, to myself, by myself. So cold calling is not an option that I would personally pursue. But if you're good at chatting up people, and if you have that charm, and you instantly connect with people, then you should get on the phone and call someone. The problem is that I don't see a lot of illustration work in advertising, at least here in America. Um, and that may be changing, but there's a lot of photography, and there's a lot of photography and a lot of models and stuff like that. And so I think there's a really good photography market here in the States. I think over in I think illustration is pretty big in England these days, and in other parts of Europe. It just hasn't caught on as strongly here in the States. I don't know why that is, but hopefully that'll change, because I want to work in illustration. But even if you're in the States and are looking for work overseas, Europe is a fine place to. There are a lot of great agencies in Europe that are always looking for um, the next great illustration talent. That could be you. So send stuff overseas. Send some inquiry emails. Send some postcards. Um, as long as your website is awesome and shows off what you can do and what you have to offer, it can't hurt. Now, along the way, you're going to run into what are known as illustration directories. And these are books and annuals that are put together by um, agencies and shopped around to art buyers and illustration buyers and all that kind of stuff. And the problem is the price point for entry is pretty high for these directories. One in particular I know of, to get a single page in their book, it's like $3,000. And now they're gonna talk you up, blend, and tell you all sorts of stuff like, you get your stuff on our website. Our website is seen by a bajillion zillion people, and they're always looking for work, and blah 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 blah, and all this other stuff. And I don't know if it's worth it, because I've never tried it. So I can't really dispute their claims, because I have no primary knowledge of using those sites, because I can't friggin' afford it. $3,000 to drop on something just on a lark is a lot to ask. And I know it takes money to make money, and I know that. But man, I mean, that's a lot of money to ask for something that's not guaranteed. You know, there's no money back guarantee. Like if you don't get a gig within a year, you get your money back. It's not how it works. You put your money in and it's a crapshoot. You know, I think at some point when I could afford, to buy space in one of those books, it might be worth it. But, starting out 3 grand, that's a lot of money. um, Especially without any guarantees. Now I know that there's no such thing as a guarantee in this life, but it just seems like such an astronomical number for something like that. When you can just as easily pound the pavement and get your work in front of those people anyway, by sending postcards, by going through directories and looking at ad agencies, or packaging agencies or toy companies and things like that. There are ways to reach those people without those directories. Um, there's another way to go about getting into some of those things. Like, um, I know Communication Arts is a publication. It's a magazine that is well known in the design field, and they have annual juried competitions. Um, and so if you submit work to that and your work is chosen, that's a great way to get exposure. And the entry fees are not are comparably much smaller than those directory type things. And they're juried exhibitions, and typically entry fees can be anywhere from like 25 to $100, which when you compared with a $3,000 fee to get your stuff in a page in a book, I think those kinds of competitions are the way to go. And even if you don't win, you know that your work was put in front of the eyes of the judges. And the judges are usually well-known names in the field that you're entering into. So that's kind of what I want to do with this piece. I'm going to submit it, if I get it done, to the Spectrum book. And that's a very prestigious annual juried selection book that comes out every year. There are people who just buy it for the art because they love the art, but there are also people in the industry who pick it up to look for new talent, and I'm hoping to get my crap on those pages in front of those people. So that's one of the goals with this piece, is to submit it to Spectrum. There's another way to get your work in front of people, and that is by participation in online forums. And there are many digital art forums out there that are frequented by professionals and amateurs alike. One of the sites that I have seen grow tremendously in the past couple years is CG Society, cgsociety.org, and their forum, CG Talk. Well, I think it's like forum.cgsociety.org, but it used to be called CG Talk, and it's a tremendously helpful resource. There are a lot of helpful professionals out there willing to just to lend a hand to amateurs and other professionals who have questions. But it's a very nice forum. It's a great place to learn new techniques, to ask questions, to have them answered by people who are working in the field or people just starting out. Um, and they hold annual competitions, um, illustration, 3D and 2D illustration competitions that are very prestigious. Um, the prizes are tremendous, but also the judges are you know, well known in their fields, and a lot of the people who participate in those competitions and do well go on to have very successful careers in digital illustration and 3D and all that kind of stuff. So um, that's one of the forums that I highly recommend as a source for inspiration and um, just a tremendous knowledge base. It's a great place to go. Conceptart.org is another forum that you'll hear a lot about. I don't go there myself, but I've also heard great things about it. There are a lot of great professionals on there who are very helpful, and I think the group that does that is Massive Black, and they have a lot of great video resources that you can buy, purchase, or download that cover various topics like digital painting, traditional painting, composition, character design, that kind of thing. Um, so there are a lot of places online that you can get your stuff out there, learn more stuff, um, learn more crap, and get your work seen by people who are in the biz. And if you can impress them, if you can build up relationships with them, they might be able to swing you some work. Or they might be able to point you in the right direction. So most of getting work is about building relationships and meeting people and having a good rapport with your potential clients, getting the word out. So, you know, that's something that they don't teach you in art school, unfortunately. At least they didn't teach that to me when I was going to school. Um, you know, there's a lot of hand holding and glad handing and meeting people that they don't teach you how to do in school. And it's a vital skill that you need to survive if you're serious about doing this for a living. So you know, work on those people skills. Don't be a jackass. Oh, too much. Maybe some more yellow. Lello. Lello. It's a really small detail that no one's gonna notice, but sometimes you just gotta zoom, zoom, zoom. Alright, this sock needs more neutral tones to it. Some more grays, some more blues. Oh, save. Don't forget to save. And get some water. Water is essential. There we go. So if you zoom in, you can see that I'm getting a lot of I do a lot of short little strokes when I paint, and you can see that it kind of builds up a volume to it, not unlike a traditional painting. So you see that there's some lines here that that you kind of see overlaid over each other, and that's quite a nice effect. The way I'm doing this, I'm not using just a big soft brush to lay in some roundness to the figure. I'm using this kind of splayed bristle spatter brush to sort of build up forms, and that kind of gives me that illusion of underpainting and brush stroke and stuff like that, and things that you traditionally associate with traditional media. And I love that about this way of blending shades, just using this brush instead of using a tool like the blur tool or the blend tool. Not that there's anything wrong with a blend tool. I've seen some amazing work done using the blend tool, but for me, this works for me, and I like the results that I get with this technique, so I will be sticking with it for a good long while. But like I always say, you should just screw around and see what works for you. You might find that my workflow is completely backwards and horribly unrelated to your workflow, which is fine. Or you might start copying me exactly, which is, I guess, okay too. You should really just use Monster Cutie as a jumping off point and come up with your own stuff. But yeah, I mean, just try a whole bunch of different stuff. There are no right and wrong answers, right or wrong answers in art. There's just, does it look cool or does it look like crap? And hopefully your stuff looks cool. Disuko, 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 Disuko. I been listening to a lot of Perfume when I wake up in the morning. Perfume is a real Japanese pop group. that use a lot of auto-tune in their music. So you can blame them for giving Kanye West the idea to release a auto-tune album, I guess. But they're a lot cuter than Kanye, so they get a pass. Yeah, there we go. So I like this blue color. I want to put some light into it. So I'm going to dust in some of this. There we go. Oops. I guess I'll make that a horn of some kind. These are shadows, of course. They look like shadows. Only the shadow knows. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? Lamont Cranston is the shadow. Alright, let's save you. You know what? I am going to collapse all of this stuff down. I don't need this sketch anymore. I don't need that anymore. I'm gonna turn this all into one big happy family. So, what is it? Apple E or Control E to merge down, which merges the top layer with the bottom layer, the layer below it. Or you could do it this way, highlight all the layers you want to merge and hit Apple E or Control E. Bloop. And so I'm gonna lock its position, lock the transparency, hit save. It's all on one layer now, so there's no going back, which gets rid of one of my many crutches when I work digitally. I like to save multiple copies of everything just in case I want to go back and unscrew what I've screwed with. But let's be brave now and keep going with this. Oops. Keep going with what we've got here. We'll make this bulge out because that looks funny. This is all really subtle stuff that's going on here. I haven't really done things like add in liver spots, which is something that I will be doing at some point. Actually, I'll start laying in some of that crap now. So, hit save. Oh, one of the nice things about condensing it all into one layer is now I don't have to make a layer selection since I've preserved the transparency. automatically prevents me from painting outside the lines. But it's not ever going to be that simple. So we're going to start overlaying some other textures on this stuff. And I specifically want to do some spots. So let's make our selection, create a new layer. We'll call this spots. Spottle. And for this, we're going to save. Let's take a look at our brush palette. Do we have anything that looks like spots? Well, we have this. What does this do? Let's make it really big and see what this does. Nope, don't like that. Let's see what this does. Make it big. Oh, absolutely not. That's terrible. Let's change the Let's change the properties of this thing. Pen pressure, brush shape. Let's change the spacing a little bit, make it more blotchy. Other dynamics, opacity, jitter, pen pressure, scattering, pen pressure. What did we do with this here? This looks like it's a texture brush. I don't want the texture on there. This is what it looks like. Bleh, that's terrible. All right. Looks like we're gonna have to make our own spotted brush. Spotted brush. So let us open up a new composition. This is gonna be our test bed for our new brush. So unfocus. We are at 25%. Oh, this is at 200%. We want it to be at 100%. Oops. Come back here. Go back to view. Where are you? View. Screw it. Where'd you go? There you went. Alright, let's move that here. And we're bringing it back up here. Alright. So, hit the D key so that your foreground color is black and the background color is white. And let's create a spot brush. Grab a typical circle, and we want flow, jitter. No, we want scattering. Yes, we want scattering. We want scattering both axes. Shape dynamics, maybe. So no, I don't like that. So jitter. I want it more spacing. More spacing. And I don't want the size jitter. That's kind of cool. That's close. Texture. Let's see what other textures we've got here. Texture. That just breaks up the pattern so it's not a perfect circle. What does that do? That doesn't do jack. That doesn't do anything. Dual brush, what else can we put in here? No. Nope. Maybe that. No, I don't like that. So many options. You can see why it's easier just to download brushes sometimes. Sometimes you don't want to mess around with these options, or sometimes you just want to build upon the work of other people. Let's see. All right, we won't do that. We'll just do this. All right, I like that for now. Don't save. All right, refocus. F, F. And let's get a brownish color for the spots that we're gonna dupe on here. Still a little round, I think. So let me delete that. I'm gonna make them small spots. And we'll change this to color burn. Ooh, that's kind of cool. I really don't like what's going on at the top of his head because they're too round. Not sure what I can do about that, but let's keep dusting in some of these things. Looks like a squiddy to me. Squiddy, squiddy, squiddy. I like the color burn look to it. No, no. Linear burn. Multiply. Linear burn. Alright, so there's one option that I want to try, and it's called liquefy, and I don't know how it's going to do with this size of a composition. So let's zoom in here, and let's make our brush a little bit smaller. Let's see if we can't liquefy these guys. Maybe make them more. Nope, that's horrible. I don't know what I can do to make those less round looking. Alright, we're gonna start over. We're gonna hand paint those at the top. But for these little guys, we're just gonna dab them in. Around here. Just tapping in some freckles. Some nice monster freckles. Nice monster freckles. Oh, you know what I could do? I should have thought of that before. Alright, this is too uniform in here. Let me erase this. Some of that. There we go. Alright, so I got some nice stuff going on here. I'm gonna erase some of it just to give us some nice effects going on. So it's not just all one shade. That's a nice way of adding texture with these guys. Get a little bit smaller. Alright, so my big problem was up at the top here. Things were starting to look a little bit too uniform, too circly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down a bunch of a field of dots here that roughly conform to the shape that I'm interested in. And then I will do it the same on this side a little bit here. And let's turn on, what do I have? Linear burn? We'll turn on linear burn here. Alright, so we can see what we're doing on. Now I'm going to select this section. I'm going to transform, so hit Control T or Apple T, and I'm going to go to warp. And warp gives me this grid, and I can screw around with points on the grid themselves, and what it does is it warps. This mesh warps everything that's in it, so I can get these neat curves, these neat curvatures that I wouldn't be able to achieve otherwise unless I was using 3D software. So this is a good way of manipulating patterns so that you can sort of map them onto an object. Alright, that's a nice start. I'm gonna have to mess with it a little bit. I want to put some smaller parts to it, but that's a good start. I'm gonna do the same thing with this side. So, warp tool. This is not available in Photoshop 5.5 or 6. I believe this feature was made available as soon as Photoshop started the CS, the Creative Suite series. I am working in CS3, so I know it's at least available in CS3. I believe it is also available in CS2, but I am not 100% certain. I'd have to look that up. So this is not a universal thing that anyone can use. This is one of those, when it comes to detailing and putting in textures and things like that, this is when I cheat. I know I talk a lot about not cheating and achieving things by painting them yourself. But in this case, in this instance, all these little texture details, yeah, I cheat. And I am not the only one. But it makes life a lot easier, and gives me more options. And that's what working in digital medium, that's the biggest advantage of working in digital medium. It's the options that you have, the number of choices that you have, the number of choices that you can make during the creation process. You know, otherwise I would have to hand paint these things, and it would take hours and hours. And I doubt seriously that many of you would want to sit through that process. And I know some of you say, oh yeah, well, I love it. But you're just saying that because you're nice people. You don't really mean it. Nobody wants to sit and watch somebody do stippling all day. Now there are brushes that do make this effect easier, but I did not do my research ahead of time and download a buttload of brushes. I just kind of dove into the painting and said, hey, this is what I want to do. We'll just flip this around. Yoink. And we will do some warp edge. So the warp tool is very good for mapping textures to non-linear surfaces. And I use it quite a bit when I'm at the texturing phase of a piece. Because oftentimes you want to warp your source textures, whether it's a photo or if you've hand painted some pattern or something, you want to manipulate it in a way that will make it fit. Oops. Oh, the other way you can access the transform options is through right click. And I have right click mapped to my my click button on my, what the hell am I talking about? My Wacom pen. Alright, so now you notice that the pattern goes outside the boundaries. So select the base layer and Shift Apple I to invert selection, or Control Shift I to invert selection, and just delete the stuff that you don't want. So delete and delete. Now, like we did with the liver spots below, we'll call this oops. We'll call these dome spots. Dome spots. Whoops, big. And we will use our eraser to erase some of these things, so it's a little less patterny, a little bit more organic. And a little bit more faded. We'll call these, and we'll just combine these two layers because I think they work well together, and we'll call them Dome Spot Lil. And we'll get to some erasing here too. And we'll zoom back and we'll see that we've got some more details. So without the liver spots, with the liver spots. I really like those. Let's get rid of some of these more ones. So we're getting there. Let's zoom out a little bit more. Zoom in a little bit more. We're getting there. Things are a-happening. And I think I will stop at this point. Give it a big old save. And thanks again for tuning in to this edition of Monster Cutie. I know it doesn't look like we've made much progress, but I think we're getting somewhere, slowly but surely. There's still more details to be worked out and more painting to do, so we're by no means done, but I think it's starting to shape up somewhere. I'm gonna have to start working in some more details in the background. It's kind of looking a bit flat compared to the foreground, but I don't know. Lots to think about, but for now, we'll stop and hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching.